go ahead.
Okay, my name is Marilee, and I'm here to listen to Lewis's speech.
I'm Tati, and I'm also here to listen to his speech.
All right. Well, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about large language models in the workplace. So before we start, I do have a question. Have you ever used ChatGPT, for example, and felt like you had to thank it after a conversation? Yeah.
Yes.
Or maybe you felt bad being aggressive and telling it to be more human?
Yeah.
Well, to the large language model, it's all ones and zeros, but to us, it can feel like a little bit more. But before we dive into it, let me explain my experience a little bit. Through my education, over the last about year and a half, I've been studying software development, cybersecurity, computer science, as well as artificial intelligence, including large language models, and making some of my own. So before we jump into a large language model, let's describe what an AI is. So an AI, according to IBM and their article, Understanding the Different Types of Artificial Intelligence, there are three types. There are narrow AI, general AI, and super AI. Now, theoretically, is general and super, where narrow is the only real artificial intelligence that we have in the world today. So what is narrow AI? Well, OpenAI, in their article, Narrow AI, define it as systems that are designed to perform a specific task or closely related tasks. This may seem unsophisticated, but you'll see it in self-driving cars, ChatGPT, for example, self-diagnosis apps in healthcare. So now that you understand the general separation of artificial intelligence, let's dive into a large language model. First, they understand patterns. Essentially what they do is they download information or are given information, either the internet or books or conversations, and they recognize patterns. So I say peanut butter and jelly. That's a pattern, except they save billions of them. The issue is if it stopped there, it would be essentially your autocomplete on your phone, where it would just be a jarbled mess. So computers don't understand words, they do understand numbers. So each number is given each word is given an identification number called a token. A token is just like your ID or fingerprint for a word. It doesn't necessarily give too much information. That's where embedding comes into play. It's like a row in Excel of a ton of numbers, up to millions of numbers, that all describe the different meanings of words. So for example, peanut butter and jelly would have numbers that were closely related, where Queen Elizabeth would have no numbers related to peanut butter and jelly. After we have the tokens and the embedding, it goes to a neural network. So that's essentially layers and layers of math formulas and algorithms that determine what the numbers mean, and then when they go through the training, they'll check how accurate that output would be, and then they reiterate over and over and over again until they get an accurate output. That's where we hit a base model. A lot of the times when there's a base model, that's what companies are trying to sell to other companies. This is because it is a very generic base, similar to ChatGPT, that doesn't have access to your company's information or proprietary data. That's where fine-tuning, the final step, comes into play. So for example, a hospital wants to use a large language model, but they can't use ChatGPT. They will purchase a base model, and then through fine-tuning of their own proprietary data, they'll be able to train that model specifically on their information without it being shared to the seller or other people. So it creates a local network, which is a lot more secure. This is where we're getting into the use cases of a large language model within the industry. Down from customer service, marketing, sales, healthcare, agriculture, even up to surgery, it is useful in many different industries. So for example, in customer service, according to Bach in their article, The Evolution of Wayfair's customer service agent, once they started using it in their customer service, their ability to address customers' needs increased by 12%, as well as adhering to their policies with an increase of 2 to 5%. Additionally, in marketing, 65% of consumers are open to purchasing new products that they've never heard of simply because generative AI had recommended it to them. In sales, the CEO, Hansen, in their case study, how does an LLM chatbot perform in sales? They saw an increase in 170% in their sales, and they also saw an increase of 150% in their total orders. Lastly, I wanted to find something that was different from a typical make money healthcare. Beyond auxiliary diagnoses, LLMs extend their utility to recommending medical examinations, providing literature support, and enhanced doctor-patient interactions. That is from Meng and others in their article, The Application of Large Language Models in Medicine. So who is adopting large language models is the next question. Well, according to Fomenko, excuse me if I mispronounced, 92% of Fortune 500 companies are adopting or have already adopted large language models, and they're seeing a significant increase in their productivity and their efficiency. Think companies like Wayfair, Stitch Fix, Zillow, Amazon, Walmart, Google even, GitHub, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. It is taking over the entire workspace. It's allowing people to be more creative, proficient, speed up their workflow, and it's essentially taking over. So, why should you use it? That's a good question. It depends on the industry. A lot of the times, most people have repetitive tasks where they have to do it every day, or they have to, for example, submit their time sheets, or submit memos, or they're more a creative type, or they have to brainstorm ideas, presentations, talks, and so on and so forth, etc. The list goes on. A lot of the times you are thinking right now of something that it could help in your work. So before we close out this presentation, as it looks like we are running out of a little bit of time, are there any questions?
How would a large language model be used in a tattoo setting for a tattoo artist?
That's a good question. A lot of the time when it comes to the logistics of a tattoo artist, you should be able to schedule, well, first you'll brainstorm an idea of a tattoo design, for example, schedule a appointment with the artist and the canvas, for lack of better words, and help with payment at the end. When it comes to a large language model, it can help automate a lot of that process, including the customer experience for your canvas, for them to be able to log in, speak, maybe brainstorm even about different ideas, and then schedule a lot easier on their end to be able to match your schedule without you having to manually do any of it. You would just be able to oversee it. Any other questions?
I have a question. So this is like ChatGPT. This is the kind of same kind of concept.
Yeah, of course.
So I work in medical records, and our company does not allow us to use ChatGPT. It's like banned from our situation. How would this be different? So would this be banned as well? Is this something you couldn't use, or?
Yeah, that is a good question as well. And a lot of the times when it comes to, for example, ChatGPT in this specific example, the issue there is that a lot of the data, if not all of the information that's being inputted into ChatGPT, does go to their servers to help train it to answer better in the future. That could be proprietary or sensitive information violating HIPAA laws. So when that information gets sent out, that's an issue. Where this would be a lot more useful in your case is specifically the base model and fine-tuning situation, where your company or your hospital would be able to purchase a base model, and then instead of having it send information out, it would all be taking in information, proprietary data stored from the company that wouldn't have to connect to the internet even. It wouldn't be sending anything out, it would all be internal. So that's where that security would come into play. It would still have to follow a lot of the same security protocols, especially with sensitive information, but that would allow companies like in a similar situation to be able to use that.
Huh? Makes sense.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for listening and coming, and have a good day.